I suspect that you have seen or heard the commercial, and so I want you to fill in the sentence. It's a 4-letter word, and the phrase in the commercial goes like this: blank. It's what makes a Subaru a Subaru. 4-letter word, blank. It's what makes a Subaru a Subaru. Have you heard the commercial? You know the word? Love. 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 It's what makes a Subaru a Subaru. Do you get it? See, on the one hand, I don't get it. Are they saying that making Subarus is such a labor of love that the creation of them, the designing of them, the building of them, the shipping of them, the selling of them, the working on it, just everybody is so in love with the car that it's just wonderful. And it's all about love, and there's nobody who's connected with Subarus who would rather drive a Honda or a Chevy or anything else, and nobody hates their job. Love, it's what makes a Subaru a Subaru. I don't get it. On the other hand, I do get it, because ultimately it is love that makes everything its truest self, because God is love. So when it's all said and done, everything arrives and derives from God, and everything returns to God, and God is love. So it's all about love. Everything is about love and is infused with it. So it should be visible, it should be discernible in everything and everyone, in every event. So, where's the love in the story today? Are you feeling it? Is the love in the rich man who entrusts his wealth to his slaves, his servants, and then goes on this long trip? And he gives them, the text says, one gets 5 talents and another 2 talents, and the last one gets 1. And a talent is not, being able to sing or dance or something like that. It's a measurement, a counting of money. And the estimate by one person, one commentary, is that one talent is the equivalent of 15 to 20 years of wages for an average laborer in Jesus' time. So 20 years of income for one person is 1 talent. Another commentator estimates that it's 30 pounds of gold. I don't know if those work out or not, but that's a lot of gold. So you have what? 8 talents, 30 pounds. That's 240 pounds of gold, right? So the master entrusts this to these slaves. Is that where the love is? Is it with the 2 slaves who receive the 5 talents, or talenton, and the 2 talenton, and we're told they immediately go off and they're trading with them, they're dealing with them somehow, they don't tell us how, and they double their money, which is a pretty good return if anybody saves, if you have any money in the bank, if you have any sort of stock, to double your money is a good return. It's suggested that maybe what they're doing isn't the most ethical or legitimate dealings, practices. And what came to mind and what somebody had suggested was like payday loans. And I heard a story this week about a family that took out a payday loan. They're not wealthy. People who use payday loans generally aren't. Their car broke down. And they were coming towards Christmas. They had a little boy, a 3-year-old boy. And so in order to fix the car so the guy could get to work or she could get to work and they could provide Christmas gifts and things for their son, they took out a payday loan of $500. Not a lot of money. Took them 3 years to pay it off. How much do you suppose it cost them in the long run with interest and fees? $5,000. 3 years, $5,000. Predatory lending, that is. That's sickening, and we allow that. That should not be. But, be that as it may, the 2 slaves take their 210 pounds of gold, right? Yes. 7 talentons of gold, 210 pounds, and they double it, 420 pounds of gold. And the master comes back and he's ecstatic because they come in and they say, look at this. We doubled what you gave to us. And he welcomes them in, slaps them on the back, sticks a cigar in their mouth, pours a glass of champagne. Come on in and enter into the joy of your master. This is great because this wealthy man, this filthy rich man, now has twice as much as he had before, just in the money that he entrusted to his slaves. And he must have had traveling money too. So that was play money. So this is wonderful. So is that where the love is? Not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. Maybe it's in the third slave who comes in who was very conservative. And he doesn't lose anything, but he doesn't gain anything. He doesn't really do anything with it. He just protects it. He guards it. He buries it. He holds on to it and brings it back to his master. And for his trouble, he gets roasted and kicked out of the realm empty-handed. Why? Well, because he took no risks. Because he was frozen in fear of what would happen if he lost the money or didn't produce, and this harsh and selfish master, what he would do to him. That's what was going on. And so you might say, you live in the shadow of fear, you end up in the darkness of despair. There you go. There's a poster for you, right? That's my own. Came up with that all by myself. This passage, though, turns up at stewardship season time regularly, doesn't it? And we're not above using it for that in church. I mean, it's right there in the Bible, so might as well use it. And what does it say, or how is it useful? Well, don't bury what you're given. Put it to work. If you're invested with something of value, then put it to work. Be bold. And then, of course, the return you bring to church, because church is where that should come back to, right? That's what it's about. And it's not a bad message, really. It's a worthwhile message, especially for church, because we tend to be pretty conservative and cautious. So be bold is a good idea. Spirit of hope is a good name for a church that's trying to be bold. What about we take crazy risks for Christ's sake, United Methodist Church? Now there's a name. That says something, doesn't it? Or we bet it all on Jesus, United Methodist Church. Now that would really kind of push the envelope, wouldn't it? And if that first slave had come back and said, Master, you're going to be so happy because I doubled your money. So here's your 5 talents back. And with the other 5, you know what I did? I had a school built, established for girls, and money to pay teachers, so all the girls in the region who don't go to school and can't go to school now will be able to get an education just like the boys. Isn't that cool? And that's kind of a Jesus-y thing, seems to me. And imagine the joy and how that would change the society. But here's the thing with this story. We call it the parable of the talents. But we treat it, and maybe it is more of an allegory, and so we think it's about, generally, the delay in the second coming, like some of the previous stories in this section in Matthew. The return of Christ isn't happening, so he's off on a trip. He's the rich man in the story, and he's entrusted who? With his wealth. Aha. But is Jesus a rich man seeking to get richer? Should you be so scared of him that if he invests something with you, you hide it for fear of what he'll do to you if you don't produce with it? And if your fear of Jesus, or if your fear of God paralyzes you, will you get kicked out because of that? Is this story real about God? It gets used that way in church because fear is a motivator and a little guilt helps so we can get something out of it. I wonder, though, if maybe this doesn't illustrate Again, exactly what Jesus sees around him all the time. The rich get richer by preying on those beneath them, by taking their land, by taxing them off of their land and out of their homes. And so those who have little have less and less, and the poor fall off the edge altogether. And the powerful get more powerful. In any system that enriches a few, where the wealth is concentrated, and the bulk of the people have less and less, the joy is not shared. There is no real joy, because joy derives from love. So again, the question, where is the love in the story? Matthew tells us in his order of things that Jesus gathers his inner circle of disciples out away from Jerusalem, and he tells them this story. Just hours before he is tried and sentenced and nailed to a cross, dying outside of the city walls, outside of the walls of the holy city, rejected, cursed, thrown into the outer darkness. I'm suggesting that's where Jesus goes. That's the lengths that God is willing to go to be in solidarity with those people who live in the outer darkness even right now. It's what Jesus does with what he's given. He spends it all in love for this creation that is God's own self. Is that where the love is? And what does that say about the quality of love? On the 4th of October, a football game is about to start, and so the national anthem is going to be played. And before this happens, one of the players comes to his coach and tells him that he wants to kneel during the national anthem. And the coach pauses and then says, "Okay, I'll join you." And the assistant coach is there and said, "I'll join you too." And so they tell the other players what they're going to do and say, "Nobody has to do this. This is everybody's choice. He wants to do it, we're going to join him." So as the national anthem begins playing, the whole team drops to their knees and they hold hands. The players and coaches and all. And the response is immediate and ugly and angry. People start booing and cursing them. "Get the blank up," somebody yells. A father in the crowd yells, "You stand up. We didn't raise you this way." A mother comes down out of the stands and stomps onto the field and grabs her son by the jersey and drags him off the field as more boos and curses rain down on the players and the coaches. And some of the players start to cry, because these are 8- and 9-year-old boys. They play for the Gibbstown Falcons. And this year it's a combined team because COVID has thinned out the ranks and there are not as many participants. So 2 communities have come together. It's a consolidated team, and they're from Gibbstown, which is a mostly white community, and from Paulsboro, which is a mostly black community. So you have an integrated team of young boys, black and white, playing together. After the game, complaints are registered against the coach. His name is Rashad Thomas. And there are rumors that he is the one that instigated this, and he has forced the players to kneel during the national anthem. He's trying to make a point, and he should be fired. And all kinds of rumors circulate, as they do. Well, when the truth comes out as things cool down, that it was one of the players who asked if this was all right and wanted to do this, and the coaches joined them and let everybody else decide. There was no pressure. Nobody was forced into this. This was everybody did this together. They joined together to do this. Well, then things kind of change, and there's a league council that disciplines some of the parents who are the ugliest, and one of them is a member of that league council. These boys, 8, 9 years old, are relatively new to each other as teammates, but they're forming a team. And they're new to each other as friends, but they're becoming friends. And so communities that have been separated are coming together because of these relationships these boys are forming. And a good thing is happening because of COVID, again. Now, some of the parents from Paulsboro, that mostly black community, do not feel comfortable yet at these games, and they have a hard time cheering for a team since the coaches and players on that team were booed and cursed by white parents from Gibbstown, even after the apologies have been made and the truth has come out about this whole thing. But still, near the end of the season, the Gibbstown Falcons are 4-1. They're doing well. They're having a good season. They're doing a good thing. And the coach, Rashad Thomas, now has on the back of his team sweatshirt, Black Lives Matter. He says, this isn't just about a game. This isn't just football. There are life lessons in this. Life lessons. So what might those be? That there is this game that is played a certain way, and there are winners and losers, and before you play the game, you stand respectfully for the national anthem. And so these boys were not playing the game. They were messing with the rules. They were not doing what was expected of them, not giving the return of what was invested in them by their parents, that their parents wanted. And so the curses and the boos were not unlike the call of that rich man, you cursed, lazy, good-for-nothing slave, throw him out into the outer darkness. But isn't it from the outer darkness and the inner darkness, it's all one, where the curses and the anger and the fear and the animosity originate to begin with? We have seen and heard a lot of that expressed in the last few years. And those boys certainly have seen and heard a lot of it. So when they took a knee during the national anthem, were they just imitating the big boys? Or were they feeling the need for something deeper and truer and richer and more inclusive and more whole and more compassionate and more loving and more real? What about us? Is that what we are seeking now as individuals and as a people? What risks are we willing to take and how far are we willing to go to find it? And to find our true selves, our true self in the process. In Christ. Amen.